Hello, Jason here from Empire Distributing to take you through installing an FLKV or key valve kit into a standard masonry fire feature. We have our key valve kit in front of me here, which of course includes the valve. You get a cover plate, and typically with these features the walls are 6 inches thick or 8 inches or maybe even 12 inches thick. And the challenge your consumers will have if you don't do this properly is they'll need to use the long key. They'll pass it through the cover on the outside of the feature. Key valve is typically on the inside, and there's a long distance between these two items. If you don't have a guide or linkage to pass through here, it can make it really tough for your consumer to find the valve on the inside. So what we recommend for this is a floor plate extension. Now you're going to find this in our resource catalog. It consists of a coupling, 1/2 inch coupling, which will thread directly onto your key valve. And then this portion is plastic and it's segmented in 1 inch increments, so you can break it off wherever you need to, depending on the thickness of your wall. The key will pass through this, and your cover will just thread onto the outside. So it provides a nice linkage and a nice guide to get the key from the outside of the fire feature all the way into the key valve. Some other things that are nice to have when you're installing these key valve kits in a masonry structure are a couple 2-hole galvanized clamps. 1 inch or 3/4 inch are fine. Some Tapcons or masonry fasteners. Of course, you're going to need a hammer drill to drill these into your fire feature. And to make life easier, I always carry some 3/4 inch close or very short nipples and some 3/4 inch 90-degree elbows. These are black iron. They're approved for gas line. And of course, you're going to need your thread sealant to connect this whole thing together. So let's take a closer look at the fire feature down below, and I'll kind of go through this step by step, and hopefully this will make sense as we go through it. So we're going to start with the block that I want to put my key valve kit into. Now it's important to keep in mind this needs to be below your plate or your pan. So count out your course of block, figure out where you want your pan to be, and make sure this is at least a couple inches below it. What we've done is we've just taken one of our standard blocks, and you can see we've cut a trench in there. You can do this with your demo saw, hammer, chisel, whatever means that you have on the job site. Once we get this trenched out to the proper depth, and you'll know it's the proper depth because you can thread this on here, drop it into the trench. You just want to make sure you're below the next course. We'll break this to the proper length when we're ready to fit the depth of this feature. So you could, of course, simply install this in here. This doesn't need pipe dope or sealant. There's no gas in this portion at all. This is just a guide. So we've got our trench cut. We're going to lay this in here. This is certainly one way to do it. You can lay your next course over the top. The challenge with this is it's really tough to make a connection on your flex line into one of these ends. There's no room to work. So this is where those fittings can come in really handy. If you take your key valve, before you install it, use your thread sealant and go ahead and thread your nipple and your 90 into the side of this valve. You're going to want to tighten it up with your crescent wrenches and your pipe wrenches, but give yourself a little bit of wiggle room here. And you'll see what we've done is made a much easier connection point once we put our blocks on top. Now, what happens is as your consumer tries to turn the gas on and off, you can see this has a tendency to move. We don't want the system to move, and we can't just rely on the gas being connected to its source to hold this for us. So that's where these 2-hole clamps come in. You can simply place one on each side, use your Tapcons, drill them into your block, and let this fasten and hold it nice and tight for you. So as the consumer turns it on and off for the next 20 years, this will never move on them. So this is a simple way to make your connection. Supply would come in one side. Of course, this would go up to your burner plate or pan. You cut the linkage off to the correct length with your knife, or actually you can even break these off. This has about 2 inches of thread on there, so it gives you a lot of forgiveness to go ahead and tighten this up to the proper depth for your system. So that's a really simple way to install an FLKV 3.4 or 1.2 in any masonry fire feature. If you have any questions, please give us a call at Empire Distributing, and thank you for watching.